Yeah, that's right. Welcome in. Welcome back, folks. So what you're going to see is something new. Never had this on YouTube before. We're going to play for you the second half of our Monday Night Raw Patreon show with Goolsby and I, where we just answer questions from the people watching and the viewers and the live chatters. We wanted everybody to be able to see what this format's like. And if you like it, enter promo code RAW, link in the description, and you'll get half off for your first month of Patreon with us. Test it out. Look at all the features. See if you like it and want to stick around full time. Opened up new community tabs for live chats on everything going on. Recruiting, ticket exchange, regular college football, Notre Dame. We've got the boards up there for you. We hope you check it out. So if you like this, follow the link below and enter RAW as the promo code. Get yourself a discount.
This class, as compared to last year's class, is a much better class. It's a much better class. And I don't even think it's particularly close. So are we ever going to have a top 5 class with the weather, with the women, with the work? No, probably not. But if you can go from 12 to 8, that's a huge win, and again, it's you got to watch the film on the kids versus just kind of going off of a ranking too. You got to always leave room for that.
Fair enough. Let's go through a couple of these questions to wrap up, man. I love the last 2 shows, man. We've been shooting all over the board. I love it. Mark, with the glasses, now that we could get a bye equals we could win a championship in 15 games versus other teams that may need 16 or 17 to win it all. The path after this season may never be easier. The time is now. And I've thought of that as well, because they're going to change all this again when they go to 16. And I just think that's going to happen. And who knows what happens to the seating and the formatting and the bye and how many guaranteed this and that they're handing out. Maybe there's a window there that, like, if you get this quarterback hits, maybe this is a good window for you before things change again and you could sneak in there. It's a good angle.
Right. I think this year's a huge year, but it really does feel like we got like a 2-3 year window between Freeman, what his future holds. I feel like it's we got to be all in the next couple 2-3 years.
Yeah. Yep. And it lines right up with Freeman's, like the exiting at the beginning part of your tenure and into what should be more of your prime, and you're comfortable and the rosters flip. This should all line up in the next few years. Looking at the roster depth, which position groups will be better or worse in comparison to last year's team? I saw this before we started. Man, you could almost make that a full hour-long show debate just on that. Is there anything that jumps out to you, Mike, right away that just like maybe that's a helpful way to do this one? Anything that popped in your brain?
And I'm trying to, again, do the comparison of this year's versus last year's depth. Corner depth this year to me is a little bit of a concern. And just off the top of my head, you got Christian Gray, Leonard Moore, and a lot of youth behind them. Cornerback depth now, as compared to last year, maybe it's a wash, but it concerns me.
How about safeties?
I feel like the transfer will probably hold down that job. Jalen Strong, it just feels that way to me. I still think Adon Schuler's overrated. I really do. Sorry, folks. Linebackers okay. Defensive line, Mark, to answer your question, better this year than last year. I think I am higher on our defensive line, take it to the bank, than I am our offensive line. Tight end depth this year, worse than last year. Running back, wash. Wide receivers, probably better. O-line, probably a wash. In quarterbacks, probably better. Am I forgetting anybody? But yeah, corner stands out.
Did you mention tight end? Yeah, tight ends.
Yeah, tight end this year is worse than last year because you had Cooper Flanagan, you had Mitch, you had Eli, and basically now you've got Eli and Jack Larson, and I make nothing of Kevin Bauman. It's like a player coach.
Matt West, any news about Joey O'Brien? I kind of hinted to this earlier. Every single text thread I'm on and message thing or whatever is telling me different things. I don't know what to believe. Anywhere from fourth in this race to right in there with the chance to land him. And so I am not comfortable saying anything one way or the other. I've heard constant rumors, all with different information, and I don't know what to make of it. I also heard maybe he's the kind of guy that, how do I say this respectfully? Can kind of be easily swayed based on like where he's at. Like something is great, and then you see the next thing and it's great, or like, I don't know. And I don't know if Notre Dame has a good history with those kind of guys where they don't have like the strongest conviction, and wherever the tide takes them, that they're like happy there in that moment and then it changes. I don't know where that puts Notre Dame. Notre Dame having the last visit before his scheduled announcement, I think does help because you're going to get the last say of him at your place. But I've heard nothing but rumors all across the board. I don't have a direct answer.
All right, let me jump in. Quick thoughts. This is the worst part, the ugliest part, the stupidest part about recruiting, and that there's all these booger eaters that make a living. Like, so anything you're going to read between now and Joey's commitment date is just clickbait, right? So nobody knows, to John's point, kind of what's in that kid's mind, what's in his heart, what matters. The fact that Notre Dame has the last visit, if that is in fact true, huge, especially for a guy like Marcus, huge. So if you do, but so nobody knows anything. I mean, nobody knows anything. If he wasn't going to Notre Dame and he had that locked in his brain, he was going wherever, right? Penn State. Penn State's going to do everything they can to get him not to visit Notre Dame. So I think it's very much up for grabs. And the kid Aiden Pouncey, Singer was talking about this. Like when he made his top 10, Notre Dame was 10. They were dead last, and they went all the way to 1. So there's a precedent there. So nobody really knows. Anybody, it's kind of clickbait stuff. Nobody really knows. You love that he's got the last visit. If he does commit, don't, it's the race isn't over. Put it that way. With these wishy-washy kids that enjoy recruiting and they enjoy the attention, it's the race isn't over. Even if he does commit to Notre Dame, and if he doesn't commit to Notre Dame, just saying.
Yeah, fair enough.
A long recruitment.
The werewolf. Ow! Where are you on having more confidence in the O or D lines? O line feels like it could be back on track. D line has a lot of names and bodies I like personally.
Yeah.
Didn't you just put yourself out there saying you're feeling that D line this season?
Yes. I'm with you, Werewolf. A lot of names and a lot of bodies. I am higher on the defensive line than I am the O line. Our D line looks like what a D line ought to look like, and our O line does not, specifically at tackle. We have 2 290-ish pound tackles at O line. That doesn't scream dominant to me, John. I'm sorry. We've got 3 or 4. If you run down the roster, you got 3 or 4 300-plus pounders on the defensive line. And you've got – I still think we're a year or 2 away from having, like, elite edges. We'll see what Traore and Botello look like. You got a Bryce Young, Sneed. There's some guys that are kind of on the cusp. But, I like our D-line more than our O-line. I do.
Brendan, question. Oh, this is a good one. Mike, when did you realize you were very good athletically compared to your peers in training youth athletes? When does this typically occur? It's a really, really good question. Did you hit a growth spurt and that like put you on a trajectory to be able to bully people around? Or like, did that grow on you over time? Like, when did that hit that you were like, oh shit, I'm different. I have a gift here that not everybody here has. It's a great question.
I grew up, it is a great question. So me personally, I was young. So I have a September birthday. So I was always the youngest person in my class. I was a 17-year-old freshman at Notre Dame. I was playing varsity football in high school at 14. and I was very insecure, just being like emotionally probably a little bit underdeveloped for the situations that I was in.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that I was good until I went to Penn State's football camp. So I'm a 13-year-old freshman in high school. They're moving me up to linebacker. This is the varsity to play linebacker. And I'd only played 1 year of tackle football my freshman year. And I was afraid to hit. I didn't like contact. I didn't take to it, initially. And then I went to this camp and I was like, oh, damn, like I'm actually a really good athlete. And it wasn't probably until then. But growing up, I was like a competitive kid, but I didn't know that I was good. And I didn't take it that serious. I was just fucking around. Does that make sense?
When did you realize that like a college scholarship was in the cards for you? Was that earlier or like later in your career? When did that hit you like, oh shit, this might actually lead to something big?
Well, the most important conversation I ever had in my life was, I was like, and I probably told this story, but maybe there's new people here. I was watching Marshall Faulk on TV at San Diego State. He was so good. He was like on TV and I didn't have cable. So I'm watching like ABC, Wild World of Sports, whatever. Love the uniforms, love Marshall. I told my dad, I was like, I'm going to San Diego State. I'm like 10, 11. He's like, no, you're not. We can't afford college. He's like, you need to get a scholarship. And he was like, if you get one scholarship, even if it's the University of St. Francis, John, NAI, like that's where you're going. And if you get more than one scholarship, you have a choice. And he was like, you're going into high school soon, almost verbatim. It's not good enough just to be the best kid in your class. It's not best to be like the best in your city. You're competing against kids all around the country for these scholarships. And like the light bulb went off. So when you talk about a scholarship, that was when I sort of set my focus because I got it. Like, oh, okay, I understand the mission here. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Did that change you? Like, did you traveling back from that Penn State camp? Did that change you when that switch went on? You're like looking around, like, dude, I can hang here. There's a future that, like, did that change anything in like your drive, or like just give you the confidence to be like, yeah, I'm going to lean into this now and take it more serious?
I just remember, like, I've always been a very like competitive person. And you know me, like we talk about the podcast stuff, I'm competitive. Like I'm a little like maniacal about it. And I just remember like at that Penn State camp, like going so hard, John. And this is no exaggeration. Like when they like, cause you're in like a bunk bed or whatever, like a dorm room, like picking my legs up to put them in bed. Like that's how shot I was. Right.
Wow.
Like, so did that answer your question? I just remember like having fun, like competing. And then we talked about this last week. I didn't grow up like playing organized sports outside of like YMCA soccer, which is just, bullshit. And then I had friends that were like on all-star teams for baseball, and I didn't play baseball. I didn't like it. So I never got a chance to get any attention or win any awards. So then once I started getting good, that like winning awards and stuff like that motivated me.
Yeah, man. It's the beginnings of a captain, man. That's interesting.
So, but yeah, for young kids, there's markers like, like I talk about the thin ankles and stuff like that. Like I told that story before. Like we were at a family barbecue. My grandfather, rest in peace. Like we were throwing the ball around with my cousins or whatever. And I could hear my grandpa talking about how athletic I was. And I was like, fucking A, right, I am, but I was like 8. And like, those are like little seeds that kind of got planted in my head. But my grandpa could see it in me at like 8, like your shoulders or whatever. Like there's definitely things. And that's the other thing that I try to stress to parents. It's like, if you have a child that has like an inherent knack for something, whether it's music, painting, anything, like give him a kick in the ass. Don't leave it up to your fucking 9-year-old to tell you what he wants to do with his life. Give him a kick in the ass.
Yeah.
So I got several kicks in the ass athletically.
It makes perfect sense. R. Mendoza, if this is true that CJ is QB1 to start, Kenny needs to be ready to go in at any moment because it'll happen. Kenny is going to get snaps in meaningful moments. That was on my thing we did last week where I was like, I'd be surprised. One of them was, I'd be surprised if the backup doesn't get serious action in an important time. I don't know whether it's a series, a half, or 3 games. But for some reason, I agree with this, that you got to be ready. And I think both these guys are going to have a chance to make Notre Dame fans happy.
Me personally, as kind of a guy that's rooting for Kenny, like if there's a package to keep him engaged, to utilize the legs, if CJ is in fact a penciled in starter, that rubs me the wrong way a little bit. I'm a little bit concerned about CJ staying healthy for an entire year. And I'm not talking where he gets his bell rung and he misses a half a game. You know, he sat out all last year with an elbow, you know, on his throwing arm. Similar injury that Carson Beck had at Georgia. So, yes, you got to keep them all engaged.
Hey, Patrick, thanks a lot for this. Been listening and giving likes to every YouTube video and watching every Patreon video since the title game. You both been doing amazing. Never felt bored once. You guys rule. Hey, thanks a lot, Patrick. Appreciate you being here, and it's good to hear that you like what we're coming up with here. Thank you for the support. Mark,
I agree. We talked about that real quick, John, on Friday night.
Yeah.
I think John and I both understand, you know, you guys are paying to be here. There's some weight that comes with that, but then also like the entertainment piece. I think John and I both pride ourselves on trying to keep this fun, you know, because you're spending your time, you're spending your money. We take that entertainment piece to heart.
I'm telling you, if anybody ever responded to me that some of my stuff bored them, I might just quit. You'll never see me again. Like, you could say I'm an idiot. You could disagree. You could think I'm crazy. Bored? No. Never bored. You could call me whatever you want, but not boring. This is interesting, Mike. This is the first time Marcus is going to have a returning offensive coordinator. That has to be significant in the offense's development, right? That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, because Denbrock, if you go back to the timeline, he inherited Riley Leonard. So it's like that famous Bill Parcells quote, like, if I got to cook the meal as a head coach because he wants, you know, some sway in terms of personnel decisions, I got to cook the meal, at least let me pick out the groceries or whatever.
Yeah.
So this is an instance where Denbrock gets to pick his quarterback. And yes, these quarterbacks have been in the system for a second year now. Absolutely.
Oh, man. Oh, boy. Here we go. WPP is channeling his inner Dabo Sweeney on this one. Look at this. Transfers from the portal are line cutters, and Notre Dame should minimize the number of them each year. And in my book, that number should be close to 0. That is the Dabo line from a few years ago. And even he is bent on that a little bit. Mike, I'm going to defer to you, and I've asked you it before. As a former player, how does that work when you have these transfers come in there and it's a new personality and a different kind of guy? He hasn't put the blood, sweat, and tears at Notre Dame and the books and all the tests, and you guys have been matriculating together through Notre Dame, all those life challenges on and off the field, in and out of the classroom. And then a guy just comes in, and what if he just thinks he's the shit? Are you cool with that as long as he's good? Or is there some of this, you're with us now, you got to prove you're one of us now. You don't just walk in here when we have some shit going on, and now you're walking in here like the man. How does that all work?
Yeah. I mean, it's problematic just because of the money involved, but kids are different now. It's like, they say that a lot about the NBA. Like in Jordan's era, when we grew up watching it, it was competitive. And now, like, these guys all vacation, you know, whether, like, it's not as competitive, right? So kids are a little bit different. The money's a thing. And you'll know, I mean, I think it becomes really problematic if I'm a wide receiver, I'm you know, KK Smith, and I've been here 3 years now, and then, oh, what the fuck? They bring in this Pauling and they bring in this Malachi Fields. Oh, and I get to watch him run around, be like, I get it. He's better than me. Now, if he's not clearly better than me, that becomes problematic. But I agree with what West Palm Pat. The number should be close to 0, and it is, quite frankly. It is, quite frankly. And I talk to kids, you know, like Nebraska, like their quarterback, like Raiola, like he sits at the lunch table in the football facility and talks about transferring all the time. All these other programs, all the kids compare notes. And, oh, man, Kentucky just texted me. They're offering me this. I don't think a lot of that happens to that degree at Notre Dame because of the brotherhood, because of the degree. Like, you've got a really good thing going. And it's nice to be able to just, patch a position with a transfer if need be. I love the way they're building the program.
Yeah, it is significantly lower than a lot of the SEC schools. I know Kelly had 24 guys leave after spring. I mean, that's a lot of personalities and like a lot of things to figure out when you have 24 guys coming and going. That's a lot. Notre Dame doesn't have a lot, but if you're going to do some of them, they tend to be big ones. Like your quarterback last year. You wouldn't have been in that playoff hunt without Riley Leonard doing all the shit he did. So, like,
I like this recruit. I like the 2026 recruiting class more than 2025. I like this transfer class much more. Nobody's talking about the Elijah Hughes, the USC kid. I keep kind of banging that drum. I like the NC State guy. I like both receivers to a degree. Love the nickel. Nobody talks about him. Love him. And, Strong, the safety, he was an NFL kid, save for an injury. So,
yeah, here's a good one. Go Irish. Which Notre Dame linebacker plays most like the Mike of yesteryear? Is there a guy where you see some shades of Goolsby?
No. I was so big. I mean, KVA's better than I was, and the other guys are like smaller. Drake Bowen's the obvious answer, but I was a better athlete than Drake is, I think. I mean, I couldn't have played running back like he did in high school, but I was a better athlete.
Can I ask this? Kind of related. Do you feel like now the athletes that are filling out all these rosters in college football in general at the top level are better athletes than what you guys were at your age overall?
Oh, yeah.
And do you think that is because they're all of the advancements in nutrition and training and all the stuff that they're doing that earlier? Or do you just think it's raw evolution? Like, what do you attribute that to with that generational difference?
Yeah, I think a lot of it's just, it's the 80s to the 90s to the 2000s. Like, raw evolution is great. But, a lot of these kids, like high school kids, I don't know much about it. I don't know anything about it. It's called like SARMs and peptides and all this stuff. Like, we all used to have baby fat. I trained a kid this weekend. He's on the cusp of getting some offers, and he needs to work on his 40. So we just worked on his 40. It was raining out Sunday morning. And you sort of put your hands on these kids when you're working. And he's rock hard. There isn't an ounce of fat on him. And he's a sophomore in high school. Like, how? Versus we all had baby fat, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know what that is. But yeah, they're all smaller and they're more athletic. It's
interesting.
Even just watching the average high school football game, it's a much better product than like 20 years ago when I was doing it. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I've given a little more in a minute WPP's thought about those transfers. One of my big worries is culture. And if you're transferring 24 guys in there, does it mess up your culture? What kind of guys are you getting? Are they all, whatever? It really seems like Notre Dame's done a good job with that. These guys aren't getting in trouble. They're not messing up the locker room. Some of them become leaders that the team rallies around. They're doing a good job with the guys they are bringing in as far as culture fits. And then I agree. You don't want to go wild with it. In an ideal world, you have a really good recruiting class and then you fill a couple needs with some portal guys. But yeah, Notre Dame isn't going to have to go crazy with it. And I wouldn't want them to. Be selective with what you do. Make sure you're getting the right guys. I think they've done a pretty good job so far.
No, I agree. John, we got to wrap it up. I got to
perfect. That was the last one I had start. So we timed it out perfect. Look at that. Hour and 40 minutes, baby. And it went by like that. You guys, thanks a lot. All the encouragement and the support of the Out of the Box episode we did the other night. And then all the engagement and all the regulars and then the new people in the mix. That is a healthy blend that I love on all my stuff is your regulars that are your nucleus and add new people in. Great questions, great engagement. For June, it's all you could ask for. You guys are awesome. We'll see you.